So the book is called Lonely Castle in the Mirror, and it's by Mizuki Tsujimura, and it's translated by Philip Gabriel, which is really cool because he's the translator for a lot of Haruki Murakami's work, and his style was really interesting. And I think he's British too because there's a lot of mum, you know.
Yeah. So we have a couple notes about the author, which is they won Japan's Bookseller Award in 2018 for Lonely Castle. And then they later won the Nioki Prize, I Saw a Dream Without a Key. But there was a fun fact that we learned as we were doing some research about the author, is that they wrote the screenplay for Doraemon, Nobita's Chronicle of the Moon Exploration.
And although I vaguely remember watching one of the Doraemon movies randomly recently, the specific one that she wrote the script for was actually directed by Jung Boon Lee, who wrote and directed The Man from Nowhere.
And you found this fascinating. Why?
Oh, because The Man from Nowhere is like a Korean martial arts movie that was really cool that I remember seeing when we were in like high school.
That's something that you liked?
Yeah, it was awesome.
As far as the book itself, it's been generally classified as fantasy.
The cover is really nice. It shows like, I don't know how clearly you could see this, but it's blue and gold. I'm not really sure the significance of that.
Well, so, I mean, clearly it's the reflection of the mirror, so that's the portal.
Oh, and you see her hand there touching the hand in the mirror.
And then you
that's
have
true.
The mask, the wolf mask over top of the girl's face.
So so this is actually a super spoiler that obviously we didn't catch when we bought the book, and that I didn't connect to it as I was reading it. What do you think?
No, I liked it. I mean, what got me first when I went into the store itself was the cover. Okay, so let's get into it. What did you think of the plot of the book in general?
Okay, so for the plot, it's not for me. To me, it's too. It was pretty boring. Basically, that's what I'm getting at. So I didn't care for the plot. I think it could have been. It would have been nicer if it was a little tighter and things did more. The ending is very heartfelt and emotional, and you know, it's hard to ignore it, but it comes out of nowhere, and it's at it's at the end.
Yes. So the next thing, I guess, characters. What did you feel of the overall characters themselves?
I thought the characters were definitely the strongest part of the book. The way that the parents reacted to the bullies, both good and bad, the way that some of the parents were the bullies, and how the children react and how they think and how their anxiety manifests itself. I thought that was really interesting, especially Kokoro.
And she's kind of the main story that we kind of follow. She's the main perspective that we see for the majority of the book. I feel like there was this, you can tell that Kokoro really felt pressure. Like she felt pressure that she knew she had to go back to school, but she didn't want to, but she was scared. And she always felt like she was disappointing her parents. It was good to see her, I think at least Kokoro, start to believe in her story and trust in herself to communicate, because she always felt like the adults won't see her situation as valuable.
I agree. That's something that's very interesting to me, is seeing young kids deal with anxiety and being able to feel the anxiety that they're going through. And even though it may not have been as intense in real life as it was in her head, but it might have been, I could sense the suffering she was going through and the existential dread that she was feeling, when confronted with some of these things. So I thought that was incredible. I thought that was I really like that. And it's weird that Kokoro is the only character that they really focused on developing the bully. And thinking about it, was he even bullied? Or was it was just him dealing with his sister? That's kind of weird to me too, I
think there's like different levels of bullying, because like they never define that like bullied meaning bullied in school. Because like Subaru was bullied, he felt bullied by his grandfather. Like there was a tension between Subaru
so maybe it was the mom that was the bully in Rion's case.
What about Akai? Because that was the second character to be further developed.
Yeah, her story. The other character stories didn't do anything for me. Like it was, like I said, it was interesting hearing about how they were all bullied in their own ways, and I could, it seemed genuine to me, and I thought that was cool. That was well done, but I wasn't really invested in any of them. What about you?
I feel like,
is there anything else you want to add to the character?
No, as far as I feel like I liked all the characters. I kind of wish like we could have learned a little bit more, like dedicate a month or a chapter or a semester, I don't know, into each of those. But I feel like overall I wasn't disappointed, because in the end you still felt for them. You can still feel their pain and their hurt. So I didn't have. I liked overall. I liked the character development. I think overall it was an easy read.
The vocabulary that it uses is very accessible.
And I liked the sense that I liked the aspect of her bringing in the fairy tales. I think that was a nice additive to the story overall.
Why?
Because it was part of the mystery. It was part of the key to figure out how to get the master key. So I
see you're laughing as you say it because it's very surface level.
Well, no,
and
I'm not.
silly
No,
to me.
because I'm looking at you, you laughing and smiling, and I know what's going through your head. So I'm not. So don't put words in my mouth. I'm just saying, like, I like that aspect of it.
Okay, that's fair. It reminded me of like if Kingdom Hearts were a book, were a novel, it would be like this. I mean, have you read anything that felt similar that you can compare it to?
As far as books dealing with like bullying, there was Please Stop Laughing at Me.
You read that?
Yeah.
Was it a novel? Like a fiction?
Yeah, it was
novel?
a nonfiction. So
it was like a memoir.
Yeah. And then another book recently, which I want to read, is called Heavenly, which deals with bullying within Japanese school system. Yeah. But then there's like, and also in anime, there's a lot of content that deals, like Orange deals with bullying and stuff like that. So like those were other things that came to mind when I was reading the book.
Okay. Try to what would be your pitch to convince me to read this if I hadn't?
If you want to read a book that is abstract, dealing with fantasy, but dealing with real life situations such as bullying, this book may be for you. And that's all I can do right now.
Didn't work. Well, do you want me to try to convince you now of why not to read it?
Sure.
Okay. If you're studying bullying in fiction, then I think it's worth reading because even though you're reading a lot to learn a little bit, it's very interesting how the characters process and deal with bullying in the moment, after the fact, and everything in between. Also, if you're not from Japan, you're getting insight into Japanese culture and how they feel about bullying. But otherwise, just watch the anime.
No, people may disagree.
I didn't persuade you to watch the movie and skip the book?
No, you did not.
Maybe next time. All right, what's next?
Okay, final thoughts and grades. So, I mean, I feel like you pretty much said your final thoughts. I'm just combining these two.
Okay. So the way I use the scale, it's out of 5, 0 to 5, basically. Mm-hmm. And instead of stars, we do Kisas around here.
Kisas.
That's our white cat. I'm almost all the books that we review, and even for my own cataloging, are going to fall between 3 to 5. 5 is for what I think are must-read, the best in the history of the world, by my own standards. 4 is going to be things that are good, but that aren't necessarily for me, like really good, but aren't necessarily for me. That's where most of the books that I read fall into. And then 3 is for the things where I know that there's entertainment value and that there are people that appreciate it. But to me, I would rather watch a movie than read the book.
For me, I think 3 is mid-range, meaning like it was a good book. 4 means a little bit above average, and 5 is amazing. So for Lonely Castle, I give it 3.5 Kisas. So I think the book was, for me, it was entertaining. It was a quick read, and I liked it.
I would say I'll give it 3 Kisas and say that there are some good things about it, but I'm not going to be recommending it to anybody.
Who do you think the book is meant for?
Yeah, so I think this is a good story for a parent with a child that's a teenager, mm-hmm. or even as young as like 9, 10, 11 years old, mm-hmm. And I think it's good for a parent who's struggling to imagine scenarios where their kid could be in such, having such a hard time. I know that I personally was able to identify with things that some of these kids went through. So I think it was very genuine. And I had thoughts where it was me thinking, I wish I could express this to my parents. I could show them this book and say, read this phrase, but I know I can't, So I think, and that they would understand how I felt better back when I was younger. But I can't, because they wouldn't care. So I think if I were a parent and someone told me about this, I would probably check it out to get a better understanding of how my child was feeling. And I also think, I don't think it's necessarily good for the target demographic that it's for. I don't even know if I feel that it sends, in our culture, I feel like it's really not acceptable to not go to school. Like I said, I don't even think it's legal for a parent to not send their kid to school or homeschool,
Mm.
let's say. So I as a form of escapism, just reading a book and being entertained and being able to have these characters that you can say, oh yeah, I like video games, and this child, this kid would be cool to hang out with if they were a real person. I guess in that way it can be effective for a kid, a young child, or like a teenager. But I don't know if they're gonna if a child is gonna understand the message of like, you can make these friends in real life.
Mhm.
You can have this kind of fun. Hopefully. I don't know. What do you think?
I think if you just want to read a book that discusses bullying, in my opinion, by using fantasy as an abstract way and try to get a better understanding of how there's different types of bullying and how each character deals with it as from a psychological aspect, then this book could be of interest to you.
So thank you for watching our video, and we hope that you like this. Thanks.